Hey there everyone, welcome back to another comparison video. This will be short and sweet because we only have 8. However, we only have 8 because it's not a color that most companies would make. I should rephrase that. There's plenty of companies that will make like pastel palette sets, and obviously they'll usually have a lavender. But I went ahead and grabbed all of our lovely little artist grade tubes in lavender, named lavender specifically. Because, well, what is lavender really? It's kind of a blue-violet mixed with white, right? So this is a convenience color by far. Now, all of these are PW6, so they're going to be opaque for sure. But I thought it would just be fun. Could you make this yourself? Yes. Go grab a blue-violet, add some white, or if you don't want it to be opaque, just grab a blue-violet color you like on your palette and water it down a ton before you apply it, and you'll still get that nice lavender look. But I'm all about convenience colors, so I thought it would be fun to compare. I did not get the 9th brand, which was Michael Harding, and I do apologize for that. I just couldn't get my hands on it. I tried and I waited, and finally I was like, well, I've got other comparison videos to get on with. And this isn't a big one, it's lavender. So we're looking at these 8 right here. Now you can buy the fat dot cards in my Etsy store as well. Thank you to those who have been buying them. They help fund future purchases just like this. And of course then you get big ol' fat dot cards so you can try these colors out for yourself so you don't have to go buy a bunch of tubes. We're gonna swatch a little different today. 1, because there's only 8. And 2, I'm not going to be worrying about anything wet on wet because this is going to be a very opaque color. So I'm just going to swatch wet on dry. I made a little line and we can check out the opacity. I did put them here on my cheap little plastic palette, and it's kind of cool because you can see some are a little bit more blue. So it'll be interesting to see how they turn out on here. And also just the combos of colors, right? Da Vinci, I think, is the only one to use 2 colors, though. So go Da Vinci. I even had to double check it like several times. I was like, really? Only one? Only 2 colors? So one thing you'll see a lot is either PV15 or PB15. However, PB29 and PB29 and PB15 seems to be the favored combo, which leaves only Da Vinci as the one hanging out there. But let's see how much they can change and vary. It'll obviously be slight, but it'll still be enough. And I can also talk about whether or not they dry chalky, because, you know, once you add PW6, that can happen depending on the brand and what they use. So let's get going. Okay, so like I said, I'm not doing my usual boxes where I have a mass tone and then I the color walks into the wet. I am literally just adding some water and getting it to a consistency that I would paint with, because I paint wet on dry. And one thing I always like to emphasize is, not in a comparison video per se, but in swatching, you should always swatch how you paint. You don't need to sit there and swatch mass tone or wet on wet. If you don't paint wet on wet, you really aren't doing anything other than, well, taking some time, paint, and paper to do it. So always swatch the way you paint, and that's what we're doing today. I am swatching wet on dry. I'll start in front of the line and move over. But I'm also using a Princeton Neptune. I felt like changing it up. I love my silver black velvet, so don't think I'm ditching that by any means. See, I like this method more because as I go, the color automatically waters down. So that was Da Vinci, which is the PB15, and then PW6. Ooh, this Daniel Smith is thick. Took me a wee bit there. The Daniel Smith one, they're all fresh out of the tube, but that one was thick. So PW6, PV15, and PB29. Oh, you can already see the difference on that one. Okay, Holbein, PV15 PB29, and PW6. Okay, now we have Mission, also PB29, PV15. Wow, that one's opaque. PW6. Like I said, I'm adding the same amount of water. Of course, it's opaque right now, but never judge till it dries. Okay, Rembrandt. I was curious about this one because it was a little bit more bluish on the pan. So PB29, PV15, and PW6. I started a little further out, but you get the gist. Got you guys in just a little bit more. Rosa Gallery, PB29, PV3, so that makes them stand out, and PW6. That one is very blue. Like I said, gotta wait till it dries. It was pretty thick too. Okay, now we have Shinhan, PB28, PV15, and PW6. I'll even grab just a tiny bit more concentrated up here, but really, that's how it came out. Okay, Van Gogh. Oh, I forgot to say, Shinhan did PB28, whereas everyone else does PB29. So Van Gogh, PB29, PV15, PW6. I always like to compare. I'm just going to grab a little bit more concentrated up here, but it's about the same. I always like to compare Rembrandt and Van Gogh, simply because if you did not know, they are made by Royal Talens, so they're the same company. But that'll be interesting to see how they compare. They did use the exact same pigments, but already I can tell they're different. So I am just going to let these bad boys dry, and then we can take a look. I am real fast, just for the sake of doing it. I'm going to water down the Rosa Gallery even more, even though it's really watered down here. I've added a lot of water, but real fast, just in case. That way I don't get any snarky comments. I'm just trying to have fun swatching a pretty color. All right, I've added more water and it is still very thick for that Rosa, but it did get a little bit better right there. But yeah, that I took it and moved it completely over to the other side of the palette and added a ton of water just to see. All right, so let me dry these for you guys and then we'll take a peek. Okay, say hello to our lavenders. They are really pretty, actually. I did show you, or want to show you, I was in the middle of filling an order. Someone had already ordered one of these, so I was going to show you, but this is what the fat dot cards are. They come with a little label so you know what you're getting. And then also, if you see a G, that means granulating. And then, I don't know, I thought it was cute to have a tube pushing out the little dot, but this is how they look. So if you ever go into my store, that's what they look like. That's Shinhan, which is right here, by the way. Okay, so despite the fact that they have PW6, these aren't super opaque. I mean, as opaque as you would expect. Outside of the Mission, that one has most definitely got some opacity. And some even have the granulation, which is cool. So really, I did, like I said, I watered this one down even more just to see, and it's still about the same, just a little wee bit lighter. But yeah, this is definitely Rosa Gallery is definitely more of a bluish. I wouldn't even call it a lavender to me. I did, however, water it down a ton up here and got more of a lavender. But this was literally me watering it down to the point where I just kept dipping my brush until there was almost no pigment on there. Now these are straight from the tube, so keep that in mind. Straight from the tube does mean it's going to be more concentrated, so there's that. That said, straight out of the tube, you shouldn't have to water it down that much to get what you would think of as a lavender. Now I know a lot of people, when they think lavender, they think purple, right? But it's not. It's a bluish color. Granted, it's purple, but it's definitely more on the blue-violet side. So for me, when I look at these and I think, gosh, what says lavender? Definitely not Rosa. Rosa Gallery, honestly, to me, just comes off as a blue-violet. And that's it. I mean, I don't even know how much PW6 they got in there, but it's not much. The Emission one is actually really pretty. I do like that one. I really like the Daniel Smith one. The Da Vinci one I like, and I like that granulation that it has in there, actually. The Rembrandt is really, really pretty. And like I said, Van Gogh and Rembrandt are made by both Royal Talons. So it's kind of interesting. I didn't add more water. This is just how it's settled on the page. But it is interesting to see. There's a very slight difference. And next time I'm going to have to put these two guys next to one another when I do comparisons, since they are the same company. But I would almost go for the Rembrandt version myself. That's just me, though. I don't know. I seem to like it a little bit more. The Holbein is really pretty too, though. And the Shinhan is not bad either. They're all just so lovely. But like if I was gonna say, ooh, this is like lavender-ish to me, I really like the Da Vinci and the Daniel Smith. And even the Mission, though it is a little bit more opaque, I really do like how it turned out. So it's kind of interesting to just see them all next to one another. But yeah, even like, I mean, the Daniel Smith one is pretty. This whole top row is really nice, but I really like the granulation that came off of that. And it's just PB15 and PW6. Like I said, it's the only one that has PB15 and the only one that uses two pigments. So that was interesting. Rosa Gallery was the only one to use PB3, and that definitely changed things up a bit. Shinhan was the only one to use the PB28. Now, had I done wet on wet, you would have seen more granulation, but what I love about the Da Vinci one is you already see that granulation, and I didn't even do wet on wet. So that was kind of nice. So yeah, they're all really pretty. I don't know. I mean, I own them all now, so it's not like I have to choose. I can play around with them. However, the Rosa Gallery, I don't know if I would classify that as a lavender or even use it as one. It would be curious to possibly pick up a pan and test that out. I'm going to stick some into a well and let it dry out and see. But like I said, yeah, it's concentrated from the tube, but even as I kept watering it down and dipping my brush into the water just constantly and constantly, that's how I finally got this here. Just these two little brush strokes here. This is actually not the Rosa Gallery. It's just these two little doodads here. So it took a lot of water to get it down to that. But if you tend to paint a lot out of the tube, or you put your tubes into cases like this, because I have one of those cases that has a mixture of pans and allows you to do tube paint, and unfortunately no one makes it anymore. So seriously, someone needs to go get on there and reinvent this palette, because it is the best palette I have ever seen. And I do have a video on my channel about that, but go check that out, because that way you can mix and match. You don't have to put your tube paints in a bunch of quarter pans or half pans. You can literally, you have spots for tube paints, and then the center is just full of where you put your pans. It was the greatest invention, and then I can't find that palette anywhere anymore. So yeah, let me know which lavender you guys own, which one your favorite is to play around with at home, what you like. Let me know if you have rosa in a pan and if it was less bluish for you and less concentrated. I'd love to know. But this was kind of fun. I enjoy just like fun swatches sometimes. You just want to swatch the way you want to swatch, and it still turns out pretty. But yeah, if I had to say, honestly, Da Vinci is like, I really like the Da Vinci one. And I swear, the more and more I use Da Vinci in these comparisons, the more I'm like, why don't I own more of these? I only own Da Vinci from all these comparisons because I am typically a Roman Schmal gal. But now I'm like, maybe I'm gonna become a Da Vinci gal. They're not bad paints, and they have excellent light fast ratings. Don't discount the discount, because these are super cheap. And this is actually a smaller tube. Normally you get the big guys, but I grabbed this little one. Alright, let me know if you want to see any other fun convenience colors similar to lavender. Like there's lilacs out there, wisterias, stuff like that, shell pink. Now granted, there will be fewer brands because I'll just be going off of that cute convenience name, i.e. lavender. But it's just for fun, and sometimes we just want a little fun swatch instead of 28 of the same. Plus you can actually see the difference. Now I am going to be doing Hooker's Green next. I'm just waiting for a few to come on over. I was short 2 brands, so once those come, I'm hoping they'll be here next week so I can do Hooker's Green. And then, yeah, I am looking it up, and I noticed some of you guys wanted some gamboge, so I might look into doing that. But yeah, I'm just kind of changing it up, and then I am also redoing some that had lesser brands before, but let me know on these fun convenience ones as well, because it's just a nice little break sometimes to just play around with these. But definitely, if you want to, go grab yourself a fat dot card, because I need to get rid of these. And until next time, take care. Bye now, everyone.